A Werewolf Shifter Romance written by Catherine Stewart. Prologue. The world. It was younger then. So much younger. The forests vast. And thrumming with a raw, untamed energy. The first wolves, as they would be called, they were not yet wolves in skin. No. They were two legs. Huddled. Always huddled against a biting wind. A wind that carried the scent of a world. Ending. A great fire. Or perhaps, a skyfall of ice, had scoured the lands, leaving little. So little. Only ash and fear. Their prayers, desperate, raw, rose with the smoke of their last, meager fires. Not to silent gods, but to the very pulse of the wounded world all around them, the forest spirits. These were not ethereal phantoms. Oh no. They were the collective life force of every rustling leaf, every thundering cataract, every silent, watchful stone, the ancient consciousness of the wild. And in the two legs' desperation, the spirits sensed an opportunity, a covenant, a weaving of fates. One elder spirit, its voice the rustle of a million leaves in a wind that promised renewal, spoke. It spoke to the most desperate, the most receptive of the two legs. A woman named Elara and a man named Caleb. Their hearts, they beat in primal synchrony with the wild. Become our kin, our guardians, the spirit whispered into their minds. A melody of rustling leaves, of flowing water. And we shall grant you the strength of the wild heart, the senses of the hunter, the endurance of the ancient trees. You will walk as two, yet run as one, with the pulse of the forest. In return, you will cherish us, protect our sacred groves, and maintain the balance. For even we have an enemy, an echo of the void that seeks to unravel all life. And as the spirit spoke, a shadow stirred. Oh, it stirred. In the deepest, most blighted corners of their awareness, the silent maw, an entity of unmaking. Born from the silence before creation, it fed on life, on spirit, on connection itself. It was the source of the great cataclysm, its touch, the very essence of what would later be called the withering. Elara, Caleb, seeing no other hope, they accepted the ritual, primal, terrifying, and beautiful. Under a sky torn between storm and starlight, they offered their mortal frailties, their deepest fears, and their fiercest love for their dying world to the forest spirits. In return, the spirits wove their essence into the two legs. Bones lengthened, sinews toughened, senses exploded with a symphony of detail they had never known. They dropped to all fours. Their first howls, a chorus of agony, of power, of rebirth, echoing through the revitalized, spirit-touched lands. This was the first weaving, the birth of their kind. For generations, the wolves thrived. Guardians, kin, they learned the rhythms of the spirits, their laws etched into their very souls. But the silent maw, it was patient. So patient. It seeped back into the world, through cracks of imbalance, through greed, through fear. A great war was fought, one not just of claw and fang, but of spirit, against encroaching emptiness. The first alphas and betas, those with the strongest spiritual resonance, learned to weave their own pack bonds, drawing strength from unity and their covenant. They managed to push the silent maw back, sealing it deep within the earth, beneath the convergence of spirit-blessed sentinel trees. But the cost was immense. Many of the strongest spirits sacrificed their own essence to forge the seals. And a prophecy, it was whispered on the last breath of a dying spirit speaker. When the balance falters and the alpha's heart turns cold, when the withering whispers and shadows grow bold, two souls shall be woven, in love and in strife, to stand gainst the maw and bargain with life. A beta shall rise, his spirit laid bare, a sacrifice offered, a burden to share. The memory of that war, Of the maw and of the prophecy, it faded. Faded into legend, then into myth. The rituals that maintained the seals, they grew lax. Their true meaning, obscured by time, by complacency, until an alpha named Marcus, driven by a gnawing fear, a fear he could not name but which echoed the maw's ancient hunger, began to forget the old ways. His actions, slowly, unwittingly, prying at the edges of that ancient, slumbering prison, and stirring the faintest, almost imperceptible spiritual call between two souls, one in his own shadowed pack and one in a distant, vibrant valley. Two souls who were yet to understand the weight, the terrible weight, of the destiny settling upon them. The air in the sacred grove, it choked me, thick with the scent of fear and something else, something like old, wet rot. It wasn't supposed to be this way. Not here. Not where the forest spirits were meant to breathe life into us, into the pack. But then, Alpha Marcus, he'd been twisting things for a long time now, hadn't he? Today, it was the spirit tithe, he called it. Truth be told, it felt more like a desecration. His harsh commands echoed too loud in this once hallowed space as Stoneclaw warriors, my pack mates, stripped the already dying trees, their movements heavy with a shame I knew mirrored my own. My gut clenched tight, a familiar knot of rage and a deeper, colder sorrow. Because of Marcus, we were all watching the edges of our world crumble under the withering, that creeping blight that stole the green and left behind only gray silence, and yet he demanded more. Always more. Deep down, I knew the truth. He was scared, terrified even, but his fear made him cruel. Not wise. And so I stood there. Beta Kalen, supposed right hand of the Alpha, and did nothing when old eye emoji, her voice frail but laced with the strength of ancient conviction, spoke out. Alpha, she'd said, her eyes on the spirit-blessed heartwood tree Marcus wanted stripped. The spirits weep for this. A growl rumbled in Marcus's chest, a prelude to the storm. Before I could even process a coherent thought, before my muscles could decide whether to obey my rank or my dying conscience, Marcus signaled Gar. Gar, his enforcer, a brute whose loyalty was as thick as a skull, didn't hesitate. He shoved Aya Emoji, shoved her hard, and she fell, a small, crumpled heap against the blighted earth. My world tilted. My jaw locked so tight I tasted blood, but I didn't move. I couldn't. Must I remain chained to this corrupted destiny? The question clawed at me. Silent. Savage. The tithe went on, a scar carved into the land, into my soul. Moments later, as I walked away, the stench of decay and despair clinging to me like a shroud, my eye caught something. A single, impossibly vibrant wildflower, its petals the color of a defiant dawn, pushed its way through the corrupted soil near where Aya Emoji had fallen, right by the roots of that violated tree. It was so small, so fragile, yet it burned against the gray. Maybe it was fate, or maybe just the forest's last tear, but I couldn't look away. What followed was a restlessness I couldn't shake. Days later, I was on a patrol near the Silverwood border, a patrol I'd engineered, if I was being honest with myself. The official reason. Checking the spread of the withering. My real reason. A desperate, unnamed searching. And then, I heard it. Faint at first, then clearer, a sound so alien to Stoneclaw ears it was like a dream, harmonious drumming, a gentle, melodic chant. It pulled at something deep inside me, something I thought had died. Because of that pull, I moved closer, silent as a shadow, my heart thudding a strange rhythm against my ribs. And there, in a sun-dappled clearing, I saw her. Lyra. I didn't know her name then, of course. Just that she was Silverwood, and that the spiritual energy around her pack as they performed their seedling vow, planting young trees with such reverence, was like a warm spring after a long, bitter winter. She was vibrant, alive in a way no one in Stoneclaw had been for seasons. My bones remembered a time like that, a time of balance. My soul answered to the harmony I saw. A painful flashback hit me then. Marcus's perversion of our own blooding of the Fong, a young Stoneclaw wolf, terrified, forced into a brutal, unnecessary kill, the offering a mockery to appease an insatiable alpha, not a thanks to the spirits. The contrast, it was a physical blow, as if sensing my turmoil, or perhaps just my presence. Lyra looked up, her gaze sweeping near my hiding place. Our eyes didn't meet, not truly, but something. Something arced between us. A jolt, a spiritual ping that was startling, undeniable, and terrifyingly alluring. And just like that, everything changed inside me. Before I could process it, the harsh call of a Stoneclaw horn split the air. A brutal summons back to my shadowed reality, but the image of her, the echo of that spiritual connection, burned itself into my mind. Soon after, the tension in Stoneclaw ratcheted up. The withering was advancing, its gray fingers tightening their grip on our hunting grounds, and the spiritual static in the air was thicker, making even my wolf restless and ill-tempered. A scout, his face pale, reported another swathe of forest lost to the decay in a council meeting. I tried to speak reason to Marcus. Alpha, I began, my voice carefully neutral. The elders say the withering feeds on imbalance. Perhaps if we consulted them, sought spiritual guidance. He cut me off with a snarl that was pure beast. Spiritual guidance. His laughter was a harsh, barking sound. The only guidance we need is the strength of our fangs. The Silverwoods, they are the blight, hoarding vibrant land while ours dies. They curse us. His eyes, when they landed on me, were filled with a feverish light, a paranoia that seemed to drink the very air from the den. You, Beta, he growled, his voice dropping to a dangerous, silken tone that always preceded something terrible. You will lead a punitive raid on their outpost by the Whispering Falls. Make them understand the price of defiance. Show them Stoneclaw's strength. And Kalen. He leaned closer, his breath hot and foul. No. Weakness. The command was a blade to my throat. My heart skipped. A beat later, I could only nod, a grim, stony mask hiding the sickening churn of my gut. If I break these chains now, the old, haunting question twisted inside me, who and what will I become? The image of Lyra, her vibrant spirit, her connection to a thriving land, flashed before my eyes, a stark, painful contrast to the path Marcus was forcing me down. And I knew, deep down I knew the truth. This raid, this was going to change everything. For better, or for far, far worse. Before she could move, or rather, before I could stop myself from seeking her out again, even if it was in battle, the orders were given. And the path was set.
The order for the raid on the Silverwood outpost by the Whispering Falls, it settled in my gut like a sickness. No weakness, Marcus had snarled, his eyes glittering with that familiar, unsettling fire. And I knew, I just knew, this was more than a simple show of force. It was a test. His test. For me. Because of my earlier hesitation, my ill-concealed distaste for his methods, he was watching. Always watching. The image of Lyra, because I already knew her name in my heart, didn't I? Her fierce spirit so alive amidst her pack's gentle ritual, warred with the brutal task ahead. If I break these chains now? The question echoed, sharper this time, more urgent. Who? And what will I become? My wolf paced within me, restless, sensing the impending conflict, the desecration. What followed was a blur of grim preparation. I chose my warriors carefully, picking those who were more duty-bound than cruel. Though under Marcus, the line between the two had become dangerously thin. The air crackled with a nervous energy as we moved through the contested borderlands, the scent of pine and damp earth doing little to soothe the turmoil inside me. My immediate goal was to execute the raid. Yes, but a deeper, more insistent urge thrummed beneath the surface, to see her again. To understand that jolt, that recognition that had passed between us. It was madness. She was Silverwood, enemy. Yet, the memory of her spiritual radiance was like a beacon in the oppressive darkness of Stoneclaw. And then we were there. The outpost was quiet. Too quiet. My warriors fanned out, their movements tight, predatory. Before I could move, before I could even form a command, she stepped out from the largest woven shelter. Lyra. Her chin was high, her stance unwavering. Even though I could smell the sharp tang of her fear beneath the scent of healing herbs that always seemed to cling to her. She was alone, positioning herself squarely between us and whoever, she was protecting. Her eyes, the color of rich forest soil after a rain, found mine. And in that moment, the world narrowed. The moment their eyes locked, it happened again. That jolt, stronger this time. A wave of something washed over me. Her fierce determination, her terror for her people, her outrage. It was overwhelming, a silent language passing between our spirits that left me breathless. Her soul answered mine. Why, Kaelin of Stoneclaw? Her voice, though low, carried across the clearing, clear as a temple bell. It wasn't a plea. It was a demand. Why do you bring this blight to our homes? Have the forest spirits taught you nothing of balance, of respect? My name on her lips, it was both a caress and a condemnation. The air thickened. Boren, Marcus's brute, growled beside me. Enough talk. Beta, give the order. His impatience was a physical shove. The warriors tensed. Waiting. My throat, it felt tight. My wolf pressed forward, wanting to answer her challenge, her spirit. But the man was caught. Torn. Truth be told, I didn't know what scared me more, defying Marcus or failing whatever this fragile, terrifying connection to Lyra represented. If I break these chains, with every heartbeat, the silence stretched, taut, screaming. And then, I found my voice, or perhaps that found me. My alpha commands it, I said, my words sounding hollow, even to my own ears. But then, under Boren's suspicious glare, I added, my voice dropping, meant for her, for that spiritual thread between us. Get your people clear. Now, it was still an order, born of my rank, but woven through it was a warning. A plea, maybe. My own small, desperate act of something. Rebellion? Or was it just self-preservation for a part of my soul I hadn't known existed until I saw her? What followed was chaos, but a chaos I tried, subtly, to temper. I barked orders for the ransacking, for the collection of owed tribute, but my gaze kept snagging on Lyra. She didn't retreat far, her eyes burning into me, judging every move, every command. And I let her watch the conflict she had ignited within me. My warriors, sensing my distraction or perhaps their own discomfort, were less brutal than they might have been under Gar's direct command. They took supplies, yes. Made a show of dominance, yes. But there was a hesitation, a lack of true malice in their actions. Or perhaps I just wished it so. One of the younger Silverwood wolves, a mere adolescent, stumbled. And before Boren could reach him, I found myself moving, almost on instinct, positioning myself between them, my growl a low warning that even Boren, for a moment, heeded. Her body moved on instinct. No, my body had. For a Silverwood. Because of that, Boren's eyes narrowed further, a new suspicion dawning. This was getting dangerous. To make things worse, the spiritual static around us seemed to lessen when Lyra was near, replaced by that resonant hum I'd felt before. How was that possible? What was she? This was an open loop I couldn't close, a question that pulsed with every beat of my heart. As the raid concluded, a farce of Stoneclaw might, I felt Lyra's gaze on my back, a physical weight. As we began our retreat, she called out, her voice no longer challenging, but filled with a strange, echoing sorrow that resonated deep in my bones. Kaelin, the forest spirits see all. They see the rot, and they see the spark that resists it. Which will you feed? Her words, they weren't a curse. They were an offering. A choice. A terrifying, exhilarating choice. The wind carried her name, or perhaps it was my own wolf whispering it. Her question haunted me all the way back to Stoneclaw territory. The scent of her, of herbs and courage, and that inexplicable spiritual vibrancy, clinging to me far more persistently than the spoils of our raid. That night, sleep offered no escape. Her face, her voice, that jolt, it all replayed in my mind. The oppressive atmosphere of Stoneclaw, the stench of fear and Marcus's paranoia, felt more unbearable than ever. I was a stranger, in my own skin, my own pack. The wolf within me, usually a source of strength and certainty, was now a whirlwind of confusion and a primal, undeniable pull towards her, towards Silverwood, towards the unknown. The core emotional question clawed at me. Can I break these chains, this corrupted destiny I'm bound to, without losing the very essence of who I am? A beta, a protector? And what will be the price if I try? What will be the price if I don't? Because of her, because of that spark, I felt a path unfurling before me. A path away from Marcus, away from the decay. It was a path shrouded in shadow, fraught with peril, but it was also the only path that felt alive. By the time the first hint of dawn painted the bruised sky, a decision had taken root in my soul, as tenacious and defiant as that single wildflower in the desecrated grove. I had to understand. I had to find her, not as Beta of Stoneclaw, but as Kaelin. The silence in my heart roared with the need for it. And so, under the guise of a long-range solo patrol to track the Withering's relentless advance, I set out, my senses straining, not for signs of the blight, but for her, for Lyra. The journey was a tightrope walk, avoiding Stoneclaw patrols who would question my solitary mission so deep in contested land, and Silverwood sentinels who would see only an enemy. The forest itself felt different here, the spiritual static less oppressive, the air holding a cleaner, sharper scent. Hope, a dangerous, fragile thing, began to bloom in my chest. And then, I found it. Not her. Not yet. But a clear sign. A cluster of rare sunpetal blossoms, their petals like captured sunlight, carefully arranged beside a small, clear spring, a healer's gathering spot. Her gathering spot. My breath caught. She was real. This connection, it was real. An open loop, a tantalizing clue. She knew about the spirits too, but what did she know about me? And more importantly, what would she do if she found out I was seeking her? Before I could second-guess myself, I left a small, smooth river stone I'd carried since cubhood, a stone my father once told me held the river's memory, beside the flowers. A silent question, an offering. Then I retreated, melting back into the shadows, my heart pounding a wild, uncertain rhythm against my ribs. The game, it had truly begun. That little river stone, it was a gamble. A whisper thrown into the teeth of a gathering storm. I didn't know if she'd find it, or if she did, whether she'd see it as a threat. A trick. Yet, I had to try. Because of that undeniable pull, that spiritual echo I'd felt from her, I found myself drawn back. Back to the contested borderlands day after day. My official patrols a thin veneer, over a desperate, yearning search. My wolf, usually so settled within me, was a restless thing, constantly sniffing the air, ears pricked for a sound, a scent that wasn't Stoneclaw. Can I navigate this new path? The core question began to twist within me, without being consumed by its inherent dangers, by discovery, by Marcus. The thought of his rage, should he ever learn of this? It was a cold knot in my belly. But then, the memory of Lyra's fierce, spirit-touched eyes would return and the knot would loosen, replaced by a strange, reckless determination. This was more than just curiosity now. It was a need to understand. Brief shift to Lyra's POV. The scent of Stoneclaw was faint, almost lost beneath the rich aroma of damp earth and the particular sweetness of the sunpetal blossoms I'd been gathering near the Whispering Falls. But it was there, a discordant note in the forest's harmony. My wolf bristled. My hand instinctively went to the small pouch of protective herbs at my belt. And then, I saw it. Not a trap, not a threat, but a small, smooth river stone nestled amongst the petals I'd left behind days ago. It wasn't silverwood. It was out of place. Yet, there was an odd familiarity to it, a faint spiritual resonance that hummed against my own senses like a half-remembered song. My mind flashed back to the raid, to the Stoneclaw beta, Kalen, to the conflict in his eyes, the unexpected, almost imperceptible restraint in his power. The way our spirits had brushed. A shiver, not entirely of fear, traced its way down my spine. What did this mean? Was it a message? A challenge? Or something else entirely? My instincts, usually so clear, were a confusing tangle. He was a danger, his pack a blight on the land. Still, that spiritual jolt, it had been real. As if pulled by a string. I picked up the stone. It was cool, smooth, strangely comforting in my palm. A deep breath. A choice. I would be careful. Oh, I would be so very careful. But I would also listen. The forest spirits often spoke in whispers, in unexpected signs. Maybe this was one. And just like that, a thread of cautious curiosity began to weave itself through my justifiable fear. Return to Kalen's POV. Days bled into a week. Each patrol a new exercise in controlled hope and crushing disappointment. The river stone remained where I'd left it. Untouched. Or so it seemed. My wolf was growing frustrated, my own resolve starting to fray. Maybe it was fate. I was an idiot. Chasing a ghost. A feeling. And then, one evening, as the sky bled into hues of bruised purple and fiery orange, I sensed it. Her. Not just her scent on the wind, though that was there too. Wild herbs, clean rain, and an underlying note that was uniquely, intoxicatingly Lyra. But that spiritual hum, clearer now. Closer. My heart leaped, then hammered against my ribs. Her body moved on instinct. Well, mine did. I found myself moving towards a secluded cluster of ancient, moss-covered boulders that marked an old, forgotten boundary line, a place steeped in the quiet power of the earth. And there she was, Lyra. She wasn't hiding, but she wasn't entirely open either, her stance wary, her hand resting near that herb pouch at her belt. The setting sun caught the rich, dark waves of her hair, turning them to spun mahogany, and her eyes, those incredible, earth-brown eyes, they were fixed on me. Searching, questioning. The space between them burned. Time stood still. You came, I said, my voice rougher than I intended. So much for beta composure. Your offering, she replied, her voice a low melody, was unexpected. She didn't reveal if she'd taken the stone, just that she'd seen it. Smart. I needed to speak with you. I managed, feeling like a raw recruit facing his first alpha. About the raid. About what happened. Lyra tilted her head, a slight, almost imperceptible movement. What did happen, Kalen of Stoneclaw? Your pack desecrated our lands. They terrorized our people. Her words were a direct hit. No pretense. Because of that directness, I respected her even more. I know, I said, the admission costing me. And for my part in it, I have no words that can mend. But there was something else between us. A connection. Did you not feel it? As the silence stretched, her gaze never left mine. I could see the internal debate, the caution warring with something else, something that mirrored the pull I felt. The forest spirits, she said finally, her voice softer now, sometimes allow echoes between souls, especially when the balance is threatened. Echoes between souls. Was that what this was? More importantly, did it mean she felt it too? The balance is threatened, I stated, thinking of Marcus of the Withering. By my alpha, by my pack's actions. That, at least, seemed to resonate. Marcus, she said, the name a stone in her mouth. He acts like a wolf with thorn madness, a blight upon the spiritual health of all lands, not just yours. Her words were a balm, a confirmation. I wasn't alone in my assessment, which meant perhaps she could be an ally. I want to understand. I pressed, taking a small, cautious step closer. The Withering. Your pack seems to resist it better than Stoneclaw. Why? Her eyes narrowed slightly. Silverwood honors the spirits, Kalen. We live in accordance with the old ways. We listen. We give back. Does Stoneclaw? The question was a challenge, but not an attack. Before I could answer, a twig snapped nearby, too close. Without thinking, my body moved on instinct. I grabbed her arm, pulling her down with me behind the largest boulder, my other hand clamping over her mouth, my body shielding hers. A growl rose in her throat, her wolf pressing forward in surprise and anger, but I met her startled gaze, my eyes wide with warning. Stoneclaw Patrol, I whispered, my breath ghosting her ear. Her scent, so close, was a dizzying mix of forest and fury, and that unique spiritual essence. Fire bloomed beneath my skin. We stayed there, pressed together in the deepening twilight. Every rustle of leaves, every distant howl, a potential death knell to this fragile, forbidden meeting. The air thickened around us, charged with danger and an undeniable, primal awareness. Her heart hammered against my chest, or maybe it was mine. I couldn't tell. She didn't know what scared her more, or maybe I didn't. The patrol passed, their voices and heavy treads fading. But the tension between us, it remained. Sharp, intoxicating. And in that shared silence, in that stolen moment of forced intimacy and mutual peril, something inside me shifted. Something cracked. This was more than just echoes. This was destiny. And it was terrifying. And just like that, everything changed again. The stakes were no longer just about my conscience, but about her safety, about this. Us. As the immediate danger passed, I slowly released her. The feel of her, the scent of her, burned into my senses. Her eyes, when they met mine again in the gloom, held a new emotion, a grudging awareness, a flicker of something that might, just might, be the beginning of trust. This fragile connection, born of a spiritual jolt and nurtured in shared peril, was now the most dangerous and the most vital thing in my world. That fragile trust we'd found, Lyra and I, pressed together behind those ancient boulders with a Stoneclaw patrol mere heartbeats away, it was a dangerous seed, planted in poisoned soil. Yet it had taken root. In the days that followed that near discovery, our clandestine meetings became more frequent, more desperate, because of the shared peril, because of that undeniable spiritual hum that resonated between us whenever we were close. The pretense of simple information exchange began to wear thin. We spoke of the Withering, its relentless march a chilling counterpoint to the tentative bloom of hope our connection offered. She shared Silverwood lore, tales of the forest spirits' waning power, their sorrowful whispers carried on the wind. I, in turn, confessed the spiritual decay within Stoneclaw, the way Marcus twisted sacred traditions into tools of fear. Each shared confidence was a thread, weaving us closer. Yet each meeting was a dance, on the edge of a blade. Her scent, wild herbs and moonlight, was becoming a dangerous addiction. My wolf, once so restless with turmoil, now settled with a focused intensity whenever she was near, recognizing something in her spirit that answered its own. Is the price of fighting this corruption? The core question gnawed at me, truly higher than I ever imagined it could be. Could it cost me not just my rank, my life, but this fragile, essential thing I was finding with Lyra? What followed was a stark reminder of the world we lived in, the brutality I was fighting against. Marcus, his paranoia festering like an infected wound as the withering subtly sapped his own vitality and control, decided to make an example. Not of me. Not yet. He was too cunning for that. Instead, he chose Emoji, the elder whose quiet defiance during the corrupted spirit tithe had resonated with so many of us. In the heart of the pack gathering, under the oppressive gaze of the ancestors' rock, now a symbol of Marcus's tyranny rather than spiritual connection, he accused her. Falsely. Accused her of colluding with Silverwood, of using dark spirit magic to spread the withering, to weaken Stoneclaw from within. The evidence, a laughable fabrication. A twisted root he claimed was a cursed totem. But no one laughed. The air was thick with fear, so tangible I could taste its metallic tang. My claws itched to unsheath. My wolf snarled within me, demanding action. I wanted to protect her, but I was frozen. The beta's chain still heavy around my neck. The knowledge that a direct confrontation now would only get us both killed. He forced her to kneel, this proud elder who had taught me star lore as a cub. And then he had Gar, his hulking enforcer, publicly shave half her head, a mark of ultimate shame and ostracization in our traditions. The sound of the flint knife scraping across her scalp, the sight of her silvered hair falling to the dusty ground, the collective gasp of the pack, it broke something inside me. A final restraint. Fury, cold and absolute, flooded through me, drowning the fear, drowning the caution. This could not stand. This was not pack. This was not honor. This was monstrous. To make things worse, Marcus then mercifully exiled her, sentencing her to a slow death in the withering blighted lands. As Emoji was dragged away, her gaze, filled not with fear, but with a profound, heartbreaking pity, for Marcus, for all of us, met mine. And in that moment, I swore a silent vow. This ends. Marcus ends. No matter the cost. That very night, I sought Lyra. The usual caution was gone, replaced by a burning urgency. I found her at our designated meeting spot, a moon-slicked clearing by the Whispering Falls. The spiritual energy here a stark contrast to Stoneclaw's suffocating despair. Before either could speak, the words tore from me. Raw, ragged, recounting the atrocity against Emoji, my voice thick with a grief and rage I could no longer contain. He has to be stopped, Lyra. I choked out, the admission of physical agony. Marcus, I will stop him, or die trying. Her reaction wasn't shock, not at my words. Her beautiful face, usually so expressive, was a mask of sorrowful understanding. Her hand, cool and gentle, reached out, her fingers brushing mine. As fire bloomed beneath her skin, or rather mine at her touch, she said, I know, Kalen. I've seen the shadow in his spirit growing. The withering, it feeds on such darkness. Or perhaps such darkness feeds it. This was an open loop I hadn't considered. Did Marcus's evil attract the withering, or did the withering fuel his evil? What scared me more? I didn't know. And then her gaze intensified. There's more, Kalen. Something my scouts found, something the spirits whispered to me, in dream song. Shift to Lyra's POV. The words Kalen spoke, his anguish over the elder Emoji. It resonated with a truth I already felt deep in my bones. Marcus was a cancer on the land, on the spiritual fabric that connected us all. But what I had to tell him now, it was a deeper shadow, an older fear. The withering isn't just a sickness of the land, Kalen. I began, my voice trembling despite myself. It's an echo, an aura, of something else. I told him of the ancient texts our spirit keepers had been poring over, texts that spoke of a primal entity of decay, this silent maw, imprisoned by the first wolves and the strongest forest spirits at the dawn of our time. The texts say its prison lies deep, beneath the convergence of the oldest spirit lines, and the withering is the sign of its stirring, of the seal's weakening. My heart skipped, because I knew what that meant for us. Marcus, his rituals, his desecration. He's not just offending the spirits, Kalen. He's prying open the prison. His face, already grim, turned ashen. The air thickened around us. The roar of the falls suddenly muted by the enormity of what I'd said. But there's more. I pressed, my own fear a cold fist around my heart. The elders, they also found fragments of a prophecy. It speaks of a time like this, of the moss stirring. I took a shaky breath. It speaks of two souls. When wolf calls to wolf across the blight's divide, two souls as one shall turn the tide. My eyes met his, wide, searching. The moment their eyes locked, something new, something vast and terrifyingly significant settled between us. Her world tilted, or perhaps our world tilted. Return to Kalen's POV. Two souls as one. The words hung in the air, heavy with a destiny I hadn't asked for, but could no longer deny. The Silent Maw, an ancient entity. Marcus, a fool tearing at the locks of a cosmic prison. And Lyra and I, two souls as one. It was too much, and yet, the truth of it resonated with the spirit-weave bond one felt pulsing between us. A bond that had been growing stronger with every shared secret, every stolen moment. The game has changed, I thought, a cold dread mixing with a strange, fierce exhilaration. This was no longer just about Stoneclaw. This was about everything. What else does the prophecy say? I asked, my voice a rasp. Lyra looked away for a moment, towards the tumbling water, as if gathering strength. It speaks of sacrifice. A beta shall rise, his spirit laid bare, a sacrifice offered, a burden to share. A beta, me. Her gaze returned to mine, filled with an unreadable emotion. Fear, yes, but also a fierce, almost defiant belief. Her belief in me. Her wolf stirred. I could sense it, and mine answered. A low hum in my chest. Before either could speak further, a chilling howl ripped through the night. Not a wolf howl, but something emptier, colder, from the direction of Stoneclaw territory. A sound that spoke of the Silent Maw's growing influence. Without warning, a hunting party from Stoneclaw, led by Gar himself, burst into the clearing, their eyes burning with suspicion and the red light of the withering's touch. They'd been tracking me, or us. Well, Beta Kalen. Gar sneered, his massive form blocking the moonlight. Having a little chat with the enemy? His gaze flicked to Lyra. Predatory, cruel, and a Silverwood healer, no less. The Alpha will be very interested. Lyra tensed beside me, her hand instinctively going to her herbs, but she was outnumbered, outmatched. In that instant, something inside me snapped. The chains of duty, of fear, of indecision, they shattered. All that remained was a blinding, protective rage. My wolf surged forward, not with a decision, but with pure, primal instinct. Mine, you will not touch her. I snarled, the words a guttural promise ripped from my very soul. I shifted then, faster than I ever had before. The transformation a torrent of white-hot fury and power, fueled by the spirit weave, by my desperate love for this woman, by the sudden, absolute clarity of my purpose. The pain of the change, nothing compared to the thought of them harming her. I was a blur of fur and fong, a whirlwind of protective fury, meeting their charge head-on. I felt Lyra's shocked gasp, her spiritual energy flaring in response to mine, a supportive warmth at my back even as I tore into Marcus's wolves. The fight was brutal, desperate. I took wounds, but I gave far worse. My only thought, Lyra. The forest held its breath. Then, as quickly as it began, it was over. Gar and his remaining warriors retreated, dragging their wounded, their eyes wide with shock, and a new, healthy fear of their beta. I stood panting, my wolf form heaving, blood dripping from my muzzle, theirs mostly. And then, I turned to Lyra. Her face, pale in the moonlight, was a mixture of awe, terror, And something else, something that made my wild heart ache with a fierce, tender joy. The truth unraveled between us. Stark. Undeniable. There was no going back. Not for either of us. As the wind shifted, carrying the distant, chilling howl of the Maw's influence, I knew our true fight was just beginning. The retreat from Gar's patrol, with Lyra's scent still clinging to my fur, her shocked gasp echoing in my mind even after I'd shifted back, it left no room for doubt. The forest held its breath, and so did I. There was no turning back. Not for me. Not after unleashing my wolf like that. Not for anyone but her. That raw, protective fury, it had been a revelation. A breaking of chains I hadn't even fully realized were still binding me. And then, Lyra's words, the prophecy. A beta shall rise, 2 souls as one. It was a terrifying weight. A destiny I never asked for. But looking at her, seeing the mix of awe and fear in her eyes when I finally met her gaze, I knew I couldn't face it alone. Now that I'm committed, the core question resonated with a new, fierce urgency. Can my love and I truly survive the cost this path demands? My immediate goal was clear. We needed allies. We needed more than just Elara's wisdom. We needed warriors. We needed those within Stoneclaw who still felt the forest spirit's pain. Soon after, under the cloak of a moonless night, we sought out Elara in her secluded den, the air thick with the scent of drying herbs and ancient knowledge. Lyra was beside me, a silent, strong presence. Her trust in me, in this desperate gamble, was a fire in my chest. I laid it all bare for Elara, Marcus, the Withering, the Silent Maw, the prophecy fragments Lyra had shared. More importantly, I told her of my decision to actively oppose Marcus, to fight for the soul of our pack and the balance of the forest. Elara listened, her ancient eyes, like chips of polished river stone, never leaving mine. When I finished, the silence stretched. Heavy, deep. Then she nodded slowly. The Maw, she breathed, her voice a rustle of dry leaves. It has been a long-held fear, a shadow in our oldest lore. Marcus's father. Alphas before him, they knew the legends. They respected the seals. Her gaze turned inward, a flicker of deep pain crossing her features. Marcus, she began, then paused. His mother, my dearest friend, she didn't just die of a common sickness, Kaelin. She was touched by an early breath of the Withering, a localized blight near the old prison of the Maw. It stole her spirit, piece by piece. Marcus saw it. It broke something in him, twisted his fear of that decay into a hunger for absolute control, a desperate, misguided belief that only by dominating all resources, all spirits, could he hold it back. This was an unexpected twist, a layer to Marcus's villainy I hadn't fathomed. A tragic, fear-driven descent. It didn't excuse him, not for a heartbeat, but it painted his evil in starker, more sorrowful colors. And just like that, Elara's quiet support for our cause, her willingness to help us understand the full extent of the ancient threat, felt even more profound. She knew the price of the Maw's touch firsthand. Because of that, her commitment was absolute. What followed was our approach to Reese, the young warrior whose idealism I'd seen Marcus crush. Finding him was easier. His disillusionment was a raw, open wound. In the quiet that followed my explanation, his initial shock gave way to a simmering rage, then a grim determination. If what you say is true, Beta, he said, his voice tight, then Stoneclaw is already dead, just waiting for the Maw to feast on its corpse. I will fight. For Emoji. For what we were meant to be. Our small rebellion had its first warrior. Still, Elara then spoke of a greater need. The prophecy, 2 souls as one shall turn the tide. It speaks of a power beyond mere numbers, Kaelin. Lyra. It speaks of the spirit weave. Her eyes found ours. Ancient. Knowing. A ritual almost lost to time. A weaving of spirits so profound so dangerous, it has not been attempted in generations. But if you are truly the two souls, it may be your only hope to gain the strength, the insight needed to face the maw and to truly lead our people out of this darkness. The air thickened. My wolf pressed forward, an instinctive recognition of sacred, powerful magic. Her words hung there, a challenge and a promise. The spirit weave. The words echoed in the small, herb-scented space of Elara's den, resonating with a truth that made my own spirit tremble with a mixture of profound fear and an undeniable, exhilarating hope. Kalen's gaze met mine, and in that moment, I saw his own turmoil, his own dawning acceptance. My love and I, can we survive this? The question was no longer just his, it was ours. My immediate goal, even before Elara finished speaking, became to understand this ritual, to know if our connection, this vibrant, terrifying thing that had sparked to life between us, was strong enough. Tell us more, Elara, I urged, my voice softer than I intended, yet firm. Elara described the journey to a hidden sanctuary, a place where the veil between the physical and spiritual worlds was at its thinnest, a place untouched by the withering because of its immense spiritual power. She spoke of the trials, not just of the body, but of the soul. We would have to bear our deepest fears, our most vulnerable truths, to each other, and to the forest spirits. Only with absolute trust, absolute unity of purpose and heart, could the weaving succeed. Failure meant spiritual annihilation, our souls lost, or worse, consumed by the maw's influence, which would surely be drawn to such a potent outpouring of spiritual energy. My chest ached. This was the point of no return. To even attempt this was to bind myself to Kalen, to his fate, to the fate of both our packs, in a way that transcended any pack oath, any spoken promise. Yet, to not attempt it felt like a betrayal of the spirits, of the prophecy, of the undeniable force that pulsed between us. We will do it, Kalen said, his voice a low rumble beside me, his decision made. His eyes found mine, and the certainty there, the trust, it was a balm to my fear. As if pulled by a string, my hand found his, our fingers lacing together. A silent vow. The journey to the sanctuary was a trial in itself. Days of cautious travel through lands increasingly scarred by the withering, its spiritual static a constant, oppressive weight. We moved like ghosts, Kalen's strength and pack lore guiding our physical path, my spiritual senses alert for pockets of spirit energy where we could rest, and for the chilling tendrils of the silent maw's influence that seemed to probe the edges of our awareness, drawn by the light of our growing bond. There were close calls with Stoneclaw patrols, their howls closer than comfortable, forcing us into breathless concealment. In those moments, pressed together in the darkness, the scent of him, pine, earth, and that unique musk of his wolf, was both a comfort and a torment, fire blooming beneath my skin despite the danger. We spoke little, but our shared glances, the brush of our hands, the rhythm of our breathing as we moved in sync, it wove a tapestry of intimacy more profound than any words. One night, as we huddled for warmth beneath an ancient, gnarled tree that still held a faint whisper of spirit energy, he shared a story of his father, a just beta, and the hope he'd once had for Stoneclaw. His vulnerability, it was a precious gift. And I, in turn, spoke of Silverwood's deep connection to the land, of my fear that the withering would silence the forest's song forever. Between one breath and the next, our souls were baring themselves, preparing for the weaving. The sanctuary, it was breathtaking. A hidden caldera, untouched by the withering, where waterfalls cascaded down sheer, moss-covered cliffs into a pool of water so clear it seemed to hold the starlight captive. The air hummed with spiritual power. Ancient, pure. At its center stood a circle of monolithic stones, pulsing with a faint, inner light. This was where generations of spirit speakers had come to commune, where the veil was thinnest, and where the silent maw's influence felt most hungry, drawn to this concentrated point of light. Elara had given us the rites, the chants, the offerings. As the twin moons ascended, casting their ethereal glow over the caldera, Lyra and I stood within the stone circle. Her hand was in mine, her presence a steady anchor in the swirling vortex of power and fear. Her voice trembled as she began the ancient invocation, a call to the forest spirits, a plea for their blessing, their guidance. I joined her, my own voice blending with hers, our words weaving a tapestry of sound that resonated with the very stones around us. The ritual demanded everything. We offered our fears, my fear of failure, of becoming like Marcus, of losing her. Lyra's fear of the Withering's final victory, of the silence of the spirits. We offered our strengths, my resolve, my protective instincts. Lyra's healing light, her unwavering faith. We offered our deepest truths, our vulnerabilities laid bare under the watchful eyes of the spirits. And as we did, the spiritual energy around us intensified, the air crackling, the stones glowing brighter. I felt Lyra's spirit, saw it almost, a radiant bloom of green and silver, intertwining with my own, a deeper, earthier gold and brown. It was terrifying. It was ecstatic. It was us, truly us. No beta, no healer from a rival pack. Just Kaelin, just Lyra. Two souls becoming one. The moment our eyes locked, as the final words of the weaving left our lips, a shockwave of pure energy pulsed outwards from us, pushing back the oppressive shadows of the maw that pressed at the caldera's edge. And then, in the heart of that radiant, spiritual storm, with our souls laid bare and inextricably bound, her name was a prayer on my lips. Lyra. Before the words left her lips, she surged forward. Her mouth found mine. Our first true kiss. It wasn't gentle. No, it was a desperate, consuming inferno, a sealing of souls, a staking of claim against the darkness. Years of suppressed longing, weeks of forbidden touches and stolen glances, the terror and the hope of our shared destiny. It all poured into that kiss. The air thickened, time stood still, and the space between us burned away, leaving only the incandescent reality of our woven spirits. Her taste was of moonlight and forest magic, her body a searing brand against mine. Her wolf pressed forward, and she let it happen, and mine met hers, a joyous, possessive growl deep in my chest. But then, as the spiritual energies began to settle, as our ragged breaths mingled, a chilling premonition pierced through the ecstasy. A vision, sharp and brutal. The festival of the first rains. Marcus, a dark ritual. And Reese, our ally, his face contorted in agony. Lyra gasped, pulling back, her eyes wide with a shared horror. You saw it too. I could only nod. The joy of our union instantly tainted by a new, terrible urgency. Our spirit weave. It had not only bound us and empowered us, it had given us a horrifying glimpse of Marcus's ultimate plan. He wasn't just trying to control the Withering. He was trying to weaponize the Silent Maw itself, using the sacred festival as his focus. And our friends, our packs, were directly in his path. The tension broke, not into relief, but into a new, focused dread. We had to get back. Now. The vision from the spirit weave, Marcus. The festival, Reese in agony. It was a shard of ice, in the warmth of our newly forged bond. Lyra's gasp echoed my own horror. We had touched the sublime, woven our souls into a singular, incandescent truth, only to be slammed back into the terrifying reality of what awaited us. There was no time for savoring our union. No time for the gentle exploration of this profound connection. Instead, a new, desperate urgency clawed at us. We had to get back. We had to warn them. Had I truly gained the strength to face this? The core question now taunted. Or had the spirits merely shown me the true magnitude of the price I would inevitably have to pay? My immediate goal was singular: reach Stoneclaw before Marcus unleashed whatever horror he was planning. What followed was a frantic, desperate race back through lands now palpably darker, the withering seeming to coil and writhe with a malevolent awareness, as if the silent maw, disturbed by our spirit weave, was stirring more aggressively. The spiritual static was a physical pressure, making my head ache, my wolf restless and snarling just beneath my skin. Lyra, despite her own exhaustion from the ritual, matched my pace, her presence a steady, albeit strained, warmth beside me. Her scent, usually a comforting balm of moonlight and forest herbs, was now laced with an undercurrent of ozone and fear that mirrored my own. Our spirit weave, that glorious, luminous thing, now felt like a raw, exposed nerve, transmitting not just love and understanding, but also waves of shared anxiety and the chilling touch of the maw's growing influence. Soon after we crossed back into what felt like truly blighted Stoneclaw territory, the trap was sprung. We were attempting to reach Elara, to convey the urgency, to rally our few allies, when Marcus's forces, led by a terrifyingly changed Gar, ambushed us. Gar, he wasn't just Gar anymore. No, his eyes glowed with a faint, sickly red, the same unholy light I'd seen in Marcus during the vision. The withering, or rather the maw's influence, it had taken him, twisted his loyalty into something monstrous. He moved with unnatural speed and strength, his howls devoid of any wolfish spirit, replaced by a chilling, guttural ruhar. The fight, a desperate, brutal affair. Our spirit weave granted Lyra and me a preternatural coordination, our movements flowing together as if we were one mind and two bodies, but we were outnumbered. And Gar was a force of nature. Reese, bless his brave, reckless heart, threw himself in front of a killing blow meant for Lyra. I saw the flash of Gar's claws, heard Reese's scream of agony, and something inside me broke. A white-hot rage, even greater than when I defended Lyra before, consumed me. I shifted, my wolf a demon of vengeance. But even as I tore into Gar, I knew it was too late for this battle. More warriors were closing in. Lyra, her face a mask of anguish, dragged me back, her spiritual energy a desperate shield against their advance. "We can't save them if we're dead, Kaelin," she cried, her voice cracking. And just like that, we were forced to retreat. The image of Reese falling, the sound of Elara's captured cry of defiance, seared into my soul. Have I lost myself and everything I fought for? The question was a bitter poison. Is the price already too high? The retreat, it was a living nightmare. Kaelin's pain, his guilt, his silent, roaring grief over Reese and Elara. It flooded through our spirit weave, threatening to drown me. My own heart ached with a ferocity that stole my breath. Reese, so young, so full of fire. Elara, a wellspring of ancient wisdom and quiet strength. Lost. Because of us? Because we had dared to hope, dared to weave our souls together against the dying of the light? The spiritual static of the withering was a suffocating blanket here, so close to Stoneclaw's heart of corruption. It clawed at our bond, trying to pry us apart with tendrils of despair. My healing abilities, usually a comfort, felt pitifully inadequate against this overwhelming spiritual blight. I tried to soothe the land as we moved, to push back the encroaching decay, but it was like trying to hold back the tide with cupped hands. The forest spirits here, they were silent, their voices choked by the maw's foul breath. We found a temporary, precarious sanctuary in a forgotten, crumbling way shrine Kaelin remembered from his youth, a place so steeped in sorrow it seemed even Marcus's blighted patrols avoided it. Kaelin was broken. He paced the small space like a caged beast, his guilt a palpable aura. I led them into this, Lyra. He finally choked out, his voice raw. Reese. Elara, they trusted me. They trusted us. I corrected gently, though my own voice trembled. They made their choice, Kaelin, just as we made ours. This isn't your burden alone. But even as I spoke the words, a cold dread seeped into me. Elara had shared more of Marcus's past with me. His mother's horrifying decline due to what we now knew was the Maw's touch. She believed with a desperate, maternal hope that some spark of the boy he'd been, the leader he might have become, could still be reached, could be turned against the Maw. Perhaps her capture was not just a loss, but a strategic catastrophe. What if Marcus, through Elara, learned the full extent of what we knew? Of the prophecy? Of our spirit weave? The thought, a new, chilling terror. My world tilted. The very air grew colder. Deep down, she knew the truth, or rather, I knew a new, horrifying truth. Elara's capture could be the key to Marcus fully embracing the silent Maw. Lyra's attempt to comfort me, it was a distant warmth against the ice encasing my heart. Her fear, mirroring my own, pulsed through our bond. The thought of Elara in Marcus's clutches, what he might learn from her, it was unbearable. To make things worse, a scout from Silverwood, one of the few Lyra had managed to dispatch before the ambush, found us, his scent one of pure panic. His news was the final blow. Marcus wasn't just planning a dark ritual for the festival of the first rains. No, he was accelerating it. Tonight, he intended to use the captured Reese, Elara, and any other dissenters Gar had rounded up as living sacrifices, to rip open the weakened seals of the silent Maw's prison, to merge with its ancient, horrifying power and become a god of decay, a master of the withering. He would offer the pack salvation from the blight by becoming the blight itself. The prophecy spoke of a beta's spirit laid bare, a sacrifice. I had thought it meant my fight, my struggle. Now, I saw only the faces of my friends, their spirits about to be consumed. The silence in the crumbling shrine was absolute, broken only by our ragged breaths. All seemed lost. My plans, our spirit weave, the prophecy itself, it all felt like a grand, cruel joke orchestrated by a malevolent fate. The core question screamed within me. Have I truly lost myself and everything I fought for? Is this unbearable price the only answer? Despair, cold and absolute, settled over me. I looked at Lyra, her face pale, but her eyes still holding a desperate, flickering light. For me, for us. And the shame of my failure, of my inability to protect them, to protect her, was a physical weight crushing the air from my lungs. There's no way to stop him now. I whispered, the words a betrayal of everything we had fought for, everything we had woven. We're too few. He's too strong. The Maw. I couldn't finish. My wolf, the proud beta spirit, felt broken. I sank to my knees. The rough stone biting into my flesh, my head bowed. The forest held its breath, and in that terrible stillness, I confronted my deepest fear. I had failed. My destiny was not to save them, but to witness their destruction. A destiny I had tried so desperately to rewrite, only to find myself an unwitting pawn in the silent Maw's devastating game. The vibrant connection to Lyra, our spirit weave, felt like a distant, fading star, a painful reminder of a hope that was now extinguished. And just like that, everything changed. Again, for the worse. Much, much worse. Despair. It was a cold, suffocating shroud, heavier than any physical chain Marcus had ever placed upon me. In the crumbling, forgotten way shrine, with the news of Marcus's accelerated, monstrous plan for the festival, for tonight, echoing in the oppressive silence, my wolf felt broken. My spirit extinguished. The spirit weave, that incandescent bond with Lyra, felt like a distant, throbbing ache, a reminder of a hope that had been brutally crushed. Have I truly lost myself and everything I fought for? The question wasn't a taunt anymore. It was a judgment. I had failed. Failed Reese. Failed Elara. Failed Lyra. Failed the very forest spirits whose whispers I could no longer hear clearly. Through the maw's encroaching static, my head was bowed, the rough stone floor biting into my knees. It was over. And then a touch. So gentle, so warm. It was like the first ray of dawn after an endless night. Lyra. She knelt before me, her hands covering mine where they lay, defeated on the cold stone. Her face, pale in the gloom, was etched with her own sorrow, her own fear, but her eyes. Her incredible eyes held a fierce, unwavering light. A light. For me, Kaelin. Her voice was a soft breath, yet it cut through the roar of my despair. Look at me. No matter how hard she tried to hide it, I could feel the tremor in her touch, the exhaustion in her spirit through our bond. Yet she was here, still fighting. For us. It's not over. She whispered, her thumbs tracing circles on the backs of my hands. The prophecy. A beta shall rise, his spirit laid bare. It doesn't speak of an easy victory, Kaelin. It speaks of a trial, of a spirit tested to its very limits. Her words, they were just words. But beneath them, through our spirit weave, I felt something else. A surge of her unwavering faith, her boundless love, pushing against my despair like a living tide. It was a warmth that began to thaw the ice around my heart. Can I reclaim my purpose? A new, fragile question began to form, and pay the price, whatever it is, for true healing. But Reese, Elara, I rasped, the names like ash in my mouth. They're gone. And Marcus, he'll unleash that thing. They are not gone as long as we remember them, as long as we fight for what they believed in, Lyra insisted, her grip tightening. And the maw. Yes, it is a terrifying darkness. But Kaelin, our weaving, it showed us more than just Marcus's plan. Didn't you feel it? The maw has a core, a point of anchor. And the spirits, they are not entirely silent. They are weak, yes, but they showed us a path. A desperate one, but a path nonetheless. As if summoned by her words, a memory from the spirit weave surfaced, one I had dismissed in the ensuing horror and chaos. A fleeting vision of the Ancestors' Rock, not as a stage for Marcus's tyranny, but as a conduit, a place where immense spiritual energy, both dark and light, could be focused. And a whisper, so faint I'd thought it my own fear. Only a heart woven in true sacrifice can mend what a heart broken by fear has sundered. My heart skipped. A beat later, hope, terrifying and exhilarating, pierced through my despair. The sacrifice. I breathed, looking into Lyra's eyes, seeing the shared understanding, the shared dread, the shared resolve. The prophecy. A sacrifice offered, a burden to share. It wasn't just about fighting Marcus. No, it was about something far, far bigger, which meant we had to have a plan. What followed was a desperate race against the setting sun. Elara, before her capture, had once spoken of ancient Stoneclaw lore, texts hidden deep within the pack's oldest dens, texts that detailed the original rituals of the Festival of the First Rains, rituals meant to reinforce the seals against the maw, not break them. If Marcus was twisting that ritual, then perhaps the original held the key to countering him, to channeling the sacrifice the prophecy demanded. The Silverwood Scout, his initial panic giving way to a grim determination inspired by Lyra's strength, knew the hidden ways around Stoneclaw territory. He could guide us. We need that lore, Lyra, I said, my voice stronger now, purpose thrumming through me. And we need to reach the festival before Marcus completes his abomination. But Kaelin, Lyra's brow furrowed, her hand still gripping mine. The sacrifice, the prophecy is vague. What will it demand of you? Her fear for me was a palpable ache through our bond. Truth be told, I didn't know. Not entirely. But a chilling certainty was settling in my soul. The weaving had shown me the depth of our connection, the beauty of it, the sheer, vibrant feel of her spirit intertwined with mine. And the lore always spoke of balance. To heal such a profound spiritual wound in the world, to seal such a vast emptiness as the silent maw, the price would have to be equally profound. Personal. My spirit laid bare. Whatever it is, I told her, meeting her gaze, my heart aching with a love so fierce it burned away the last vestiges of my despair. We face it together. You are my anchor, Lyra. Our bond. It's the one weapon the maw cannot understand, cannot corrupt. And just like that, a new path, terrible and necessary, illuminated itself before us. We had to retrieve that lore, free our friends if we could. And then I had to face Marcus, face the maw, and offer whatever the spirits demanded. The thought of what that might mean for me, for us, was a cold dread, but it was now overshadowed by a fierce, protective urgency. With the Silverwood Scout as our guide, we moved like shadows through the dying forest, the spiritual static of the withering a constant, oppressive hum. We found the hidden entrance to the lore den, the air inside thick with the scent of old parchment and forgotten magic. As Lyra, her spirit more attuned to such things, searched for the relevant scrolls, I stood guard. My senses straining. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves, a potential threat. The tension, it was a living thing, coiling tighter with every passing moment. Finally, Lyra emerged, her face pale, but her eyes blazing with discovery. She held a brittle, ancient scroll. It's here, Kalen, she breathed. The original ritual. It speaks of a willing offering of the wolf's most vital essence, woven with the spirit of a true mate, to mend the tear in the world's heart. Her gaze met mine, filled with love and a terrible understanding. My wolf's most vital essence, woven with her spirit. The words hung in the air. The sacrifice was not just mine. It was ours in a way. And the cost, it would be a severing, a muting, of that vibrant, physical, instinctual joy our bond had just begun to explore. My chest ached. My instincts surged, not in fear, but in a primal, protective love for her, for what we had. But the choice, it was already made. The forest watched. As the sky darkened towards the hour of the festival, as the distant, ominous drums of Stoneclaw began their perverted call, we made our way towards the Ancestors' Rock, towards Marcus, towards the maw, towards destiny. My wolf pressed forward, no longer broken, but filled with a grim, solemn purpose. And Lyra, her hand in mine, her spirit a radiant flame beside me, she let it happen, matching my stride. Our woven souls, a silent promise against the encroaching night. The air atop the Ancestors' Rock, it crackled, not just with the impending storm, but with a terrifying, unholy energy. Marcus stood at the heart of it, his form already subtly distorted, his eyes burning with the sickly red light of the silent maw's influence. He was chanting, his voice a guttural gruel, as he prepared to offer our captured friends, Reese, Elara, and others, to the awakening entity. The withering pulsed around him like a dying heartbeat, the spiritual static so intense it was a physical pain against my woven soul. Lyra was beside me, her presence a steady flame in the encroaching darkness, her hand gripping mine, our spirit weave a defiant current against the maw's pull. Can I break the chains of a corrupted destiny without losing myself? The core question thundered in my soul. And what is the ultimate price of true leadership and love in this dying world? My immediate goal was absolute. Stop Marcus. Protect Lyra. Save her friends. And sever the maw's connection, no matter what it took. Even so, the cost, the one whispered in the ancient lore Lyra had found, loomed large, a shadow over my resolve. What followed was a desperate battle on multiple fronts. Our few remaining allies, brave Silverwood scouts and the handful of Stoneclaw wolves who had finally seen Marcus's madness, engaged Gar and the remnants of Marcus's personal guard. Their howls, a mix of fury and fear, echoed from the base of the great rock. Meanwhile, Lyra and I fought our way towards Marcus. Her spiritual energy, amplified by our weaving, flared outwards, a silver-green nimbus that pushed back against the encroaching withering, shielding us, creating pockets of spirit-blessed air for us to breathe. She moved with a grace and power that stole my breath, her healing light lashing out to bind the maw-touched warriors, to soothe the terrified spirits of the land. Her wolf pressed forward, a radiant champion, and mine answered, a surge of protective love making me stronger, faster. And then we reached him. Marcus sneered, his face more beast than man. Fools, you cannot stop the inevitable. The maw offers true power, true survival, he roared, his voice a chorus of his own, and something older, colder. As if fate demanded it, the ground trembled. The maw was breaking through. Kalen. His name was a prayer on my lips, a desperate plea to the forest spirits. The energy around Marcus was a vortex of pure spiritual poison, the silent maw's presence a suffocating weight that threatened to extinguish every spark of life. Our spirit weave, while powerful, throbbed with the strain of resisting it. I could feel Kalen's agony, his determination, his terrible, dawning acceptance of what the ancient scrolls had foretold about the wolf's most vital essence. My heart ached, a living wound in my chest. My goal was to protect him, to disrupt the ritual, to find a way, any way, to avert the sacrifice I knew he was preparing to make. Is this the price? I wanted to scream at the roiling sky. Must love always demand such a devastating toll? As Kalen engaged Marcus in a brutal, desperate clash, alpha force against spirit-woven beta strength, I focused my will, our combined energy on the captives. Reese was stirring, Elara chanting softly, trying to create a shield. I poured my healing light towards them, trying to sever the tendrils of dark energy Marcus was using to drain their life force for the maw. Between one breath and the next, I felt a shift, a weakening in the maw's hold on them. But Marcus, sensing it, redoubled his efforts, a wave of pure malevolence lashing out, throwing me back. Pain exploded in my shoulder. My vision grayed. Kalen. I tried to cry out, but my voice the whisper. Her breath caught. Lyra's pain, her sudden weakening, lanced through our spirit weave like a blade of ice. Fury, cold and absolute, overwhelmed me. Marcus laughed, a hideous, cracking sound. She cannot save you, Beta. None can. The maw will feast. And in that moment, I knew. The time was now. The choice, if it ever truly was one, was made. The core question had its answer. Yes, I could break the chains. And this was the price. Lyra, I whispered, a silent message through our bond, a torrent of love, of apology, a farewell to a part of us. Her name hung in the air. Then, I turned from the physical fight with Marcus, who was now more a vessel for the maw's burgeoning power than a wolf. I turned towards the heart of the storm, towards the tearing rift where the silent maw sought to enter our world. I gathered every ounce of my spirit, every fiber of our spirit weave, every memory of Lyra's touch, her scent, the incandescent joy of our souls merging. My wolf howled within me, a sound of ultimate defiance and heartbreaking surrender. With a single glance back at Lyra, her eyes wide with dawning horror and desperate love, I stepped into the maw's suffocating aura. For the forest, for the pack, for Lyra, I roared, my voice no longer just mine, but an echo of generations of betas, of guardians. And then, I offered it, the wolf's most vital essence. Not just a memory, not just strength, but the very feel of the woven bond, the intoxicating, instinctual, sensory rush of our mated souls. The part of me that answered her wolf's call on a primal level. I ripped it from myself, a spiritual agony that dwarfed any physical pain, and poured it into the breach. A torrent of pure, selfless, loving energy. A direct counter to the maw's emptiness. Light exploded. A blinding, searing, purifying light. The maw shrieked, a sound that tore at the fabric of reality. Marcus, caught in the backlash, screamed as the dark power was ripped from him, his form collapsing, withering. The forest spirits, awakened and amplified by my sacrifice, surged through me, through the offering, sealing the rift, pushing back the darkness. Their ancient song a roar of triumph and sorrow. The last thing I felt before darkness claimed me was Lyra's spirit desperately reaching for mine. A touch of warmth in the sudden, echoing silence where our vibrant, sensory bond had once blazed. My world tilted, then faded. The light. It was like the birth of a sun. And then silence. A silence in our bond that was more terrifying than any sound. Kalen. He lay crumpled on the ancestor's rock, the spiritual storm gone. Marcus a shriveled husk nearby. The withering. I could feel it receding. The air clearing. The forest spirits singing a song of tentative healing. But Kalen. I scrambled to him, my heart a shattered thing. He was breathing. Thank the spirits, but our spirit weave, it was different. Still there, a deep, unbreakable connection of souls, of love, of shared history. But that vibrant, almost painfully intense sensory river that had flowed between our wolf spirits, the part that made my instincts surge at his scent, that made my wolf press forward with possessive joy, it was muted, damped, like looking at a beloved landscape through a veil of mist. My chest ached. Oh, Kalen, what have you done? What have we done? In the quiet that followed, as Reese, Elara, freed and weeping, and the surviving warriors gathered, their faces a mixture of awe and grief. I cradled Kalen's head in my lap. His eyes fluttered open, finding mine. They were still him, still filled with love, but a new, profound sorrow shadowed their depths. Lyra, he whispered, his voice weak. I'm here. I choked out, tears streaming down my face. You saved us. You saved everything. He managed a faint smile. Our bond. It's here, my love, I assured him, pressing my forehead to his, pouring all my love, all my spirit into that connection. It's deeper than senses. It's soul deep. It will always be here. And as I held him, as the first true rays of dawn broke over the healing land, I knew our journey was far from over. The sacrifice had been made. The world was saved. But now we had to learn to live in it, to love in it, with a bond altered, but no less profound. The wind carried his name, and my soul answered. Not with the wild, instinctual surge of before, but with a quiet, unbreakable vow. We would heal. Together. The world felt quieter now. The vibrant, almost overwhelming sensory input of our woven wolf spirits was a gentler hum, a deep, steady river rather than a rushing torrent. There was an ache, a phantom limb sensation for that raw, instinctual fire, but it was an ache softened by an even deeper emotional and spiritual intimacy with Lyra. We led the newly formed council, Stoneclaw and Silverwood united, not by my alpha status. I refused it, as did Lyra, but by shared purpose. The land was healing. New green shoots pushing through the last vestiges of the withering, the forest spirit's song growing stronger each day. Our love became a different kind of legend, not of fated mates bound by overwhelming instinct, but of two souls who chose again and again to weave themselves together through sacrifice, understanding, and a love that had faced the void and returned, changed but unbroken. Lyra's hand in mine was a constant warmth, her spirit a radiant flame that lit my quieter world. Her smile, it was still the brightest thing in any forest. And when our eyes locked, the jolt was still there. Softer now, perhaps, but infinitely precious. A promise. A new beginning, born from the ultimate price of true leadership and a love that had, indeed, healed a dying world. Epilogue. Years passed, like seasons turning in the great, breathing forest. The scars upon the land, once raw and weeping from the withering's touch, faded into gentle memories. New growth, vibrant and strong, pushed through the revitalized earth, a testament to sacrifice and a love that had dared to face the void. The silent maw, it remained sealed, its ancient hunger a cautionary tale whispered to wide-eyed pups around the pack fires, a reminder of the vigilance still needed. Kaelin and Lyra, their names became a song, a legend, woven into the very fabric of the United Packs. They never took the titles of Alpha and Luna in the old, singular way. No, instead, they guided a council of wise wolves from both Stoneclaw and Silverwood. Their leadership a quiet strength, a shared wisdom. The forest spirits, their voices clear and vibrant once more, sang in the rustling leaves and the rushing waters. Their bond with the wolfkin renewed, deeper. Kaelin, he walked the world with a serene grace. That vibrant, almost overwhelming sensory river of their initial spirit weave, it remained a gentler current within him. Yet, the love he shared with Lyra, it was a universe unto itself. She was his anchor, his light. He would watch her sometimes, as she tended the healing groves, her hands coaxing life from the earth, her spirit a radiant bloom that even his altered senses perceived with breathtaking clarity. And in those moments, no sacrifice felt too great. Their bond, it was a quiet language of shared souls, of understanding that transcended the need for instinctual fire, though the warmth of it still smoldered. Deep. True. Lyra, she became the heartwood of their people. Her healing touch extended beyond physical wounds, mending the rifts between former rivals, nurturing the fragile peace. She understood the unique echo in Kaelin's spirit, the part of him that had been offered for their world, and she loved him for it, with a fierceness that was both tender and absolute. Their nights were filled not with the wild, sensory rush of a typical werewolf mating bond, but with a profound, soul-deep intimacy. Whispered confessions under the twin moons, shared dreams, the simple, sacred comfort of presence. Their love, it was a different kind of magic now. Quieter, deeper, perhaps even stronger for what it had endured. Sometimes, young wolves, their eyes bright with the untamed energy of youth, would ask them about the legends, about the terror of the silent maw, about the courage it took to face such darkness. Kaelin would often just smile, a gentle, knowing expression, and squeeze Lyra's hand. But Lyra would tell them. She would speak of the true meaning of strength, not in dominance, but in sacrifice. She would speak of courage, not the absence of fear, but acting in spite of it. And she would speak of love, not as a fleeting passion, but as an unbreakable, woven bond of souls willing to give everything for each other and for the world they shared. Her voice, it would carry the wisdom of the forest spirits, the resilience of the ancient trees, and the enduring echo of a beta sacrifice that had allowed their world to sing once more. And as the new generation listened, hope, like the ever-renewing forest, would take root in their hearts. Always,